Hi again, fellow unlicensed thinkers. I want to talk about my generation. Yes, talking about my generation. But more specifically, Gen X and the problem with Gen X. So the punk scene, it really caught the end of the boomers all the way up to the very youngest of the millennials. After that, you don't really see the same kind of punk scene that we saw back then. And so I grew up in that time, and I kind of caught the end of it a little bit, but that's how I grew up as a child, was this punk scene. And there's a misconception about the punk scene in that they were the left, because they sort of were. But more specifically, they were anti-authoritarian. And it just so happened that during that time period, it was the right being very authoritarian. And nowadays, it's the left being very authoritarian. And so what you have is all of these people my age, people around my age, good flexibility there, but people around my age who grew up thinking, like I did, that we were on the left. We weren't on the left. We weren't on the right. We were, screw you, you're not going to tell me what to do. That's who we were. That was that punk attitude that we carried with us as Generation X. And people said, oh, you guys don't know what the hell you're doing. You got to figure your lives out and all this kind of stuff. Well, in a way we did, but then we forgot. We forgot that we were anti-authoritarian. We just kind of went along and we said, oh, gee, I'm against the right, so I must be on the left. And so we just went along with it. And we didn't pay attention when the left started becoming the authoritarians. We didn't pay attention to any of that. What we did is we just went along with this identification of self that we had. But I was talking to my dad last night, and he brought this up, that it is the attitude of Gen X that can really put the world back in place, to give it a good kick in the ass. And that's what's needed, is to say, hey, no, you're not going to tell us what to do. You are not my freaking boss. And that is the attitude of Gen X. That is the attitude of that punk scene that we grew up in, that we were part of. And so I recently had a conversation with somebody where they suggested to me that I edit myself, that I change my opinion based on how other people would think. And I realized that person is probably not Gen X. Because the Gen X I know, the Gen X I grew up with, the friends of mine that I grew up with, no. You don't get my leash. That's not how it works. When I censor myself, or I tell myself not to say something because I'm worried about what other people might think, who am I worried about? I'm worried about bullies and authoritarians. Well, I'll be damned if I'm going to hand my leash over to some bully or some authoritarian, because that is not how I grew up. That is not my generation. That is not what we respect. So all of you Gen Xers out there, get your shit together. Understand where that authority is, understand where that power is. And that is what we need to be against. That is what we have always been against. We just got a little bit tricked into this easy life of being in our midlife or later and thinking like, oh, well, this is how I grew up, was on the left. No, you didn't. You didn't grow up on the left. You didn't grow up on the right. You grew up saying, screw you, get out of my face. And that is who Gen X is. So I challenge you all to get back to that. And when somebody gets in your face and says, you can't say that, or you shouldn't think that way, put on that metaphorical mohawk and tell them how it is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Be sure to hit like and share the video. Have a great day. That was my sellout at the end there.